Hey guys, Lisa Salvatore here. I am recording this video off the cuff as I normally do, just because I've been thinking a lot today. I had kind of a relaxing day, as you can see. I don't know if you can see or not. I'm in Florida at the moment, enjoying this beautiful break from the winter time. But I was doing some work before, and it got me into thinking about the birth chart and how the sun and the moon and the ascendant are what we call the big three in the birth chart. And a lot of people are curious about that, and they say to me, why do you always say to listen to your rising sign and your moon also when you do horoscopes? Why not just the sun sign? So I thought it would be cool to just briefly go over why I say that, why other astrologers say that, and how the big three in our birth chart truly shapes who we are, way beyond just what our sun sign is. So first of all, what is your sun sign? Your sun sign is just simply where the sun was born, the day that you were born. So if you're born on April 2nd, that would make you an Aries because the sun was in Aries on the day that you were born. However, depending on the exact time that you were born, you have a rising sign, which is a huge part of your personality. It's like your outer layer. It's what people see upon first meeting you. It's how you project your energy. And even if you don't see yourself that way, others tend to relate to you more from your rising sign because that's the energy that you are actually putting out there. The sun is your projection. That's just who you are. But then the ascendant, aka rising sign, because those two words are interchangeable, that is really how people will perceive you, even if you don't necessarily see yourself that way. Now, this is why I always say it is so important to try to have the exact time of birth. And if it's not on your birth certificate, you can typically find out from either a family member or even call the hospital to get them to subpoena the records for you, because it's really important if you want to have your birth chart done and understand all facets of your astrological makeup. It's really important that you have the time of birth, okay? So here's the reason why. The moment you're born, that exact minute, your chart is cast. It's a snapshot of the sky at that moment. And that moment, that sky, the snapshot of the sky, changes every minute to minute and a half because the planets are constantly moving and they're going through signs, there's degrees, and all of those things shape your chart. And that talks about areas of life where your energy is concentrated, the sign of life that area is concentrated to. So you can't just simply say you're a Libra, because yes, you might be by the sun, but then where was your moon when you're born? Where was your rising sign? There's also Saturn, there's Venus, there's Mars, there's a lot. But just to keep this more simple, there's so much I can say. I'm going to start just with the big three in the birth chart, which is the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. So like I said, the sun is just when you're born. So for example, I'll use myself as an example. I was born May 9th. That makes me a Taurus sun because the sun was in the sign of Taurus the day that I was born. Now, however, the exact moment of my birth, on the eastern side of the horizon of the sun, there's a movement going through each sign of the zodiac, and that changes every minute to minute and a half. So at the moment that I was born, okay, it happened to be in Gemini, which means that I'm a Taurus sun with a Gemini rising. Now, what does that mean? So, when your sun sign is what you aspire to be in this lifetime. It is what you have come here to incarnate. You've incarnated as this sign, and you've come here to embody the highest form of expression of that sun sign. That's your ego, that's your life force, that's your most vital energy, that's who you truly are at the core essence. But the ascendant is your outer layer, like I said. So that's how people will perceive you. So for example, just to kind of give you, whether you know me or you don't, or whether you just know me through my videos, as a Taurus, I am very introverted, introspective, stable, I guess you could say, very fixed and rigid in my thinking. I can be very stubborn, typical Taurian stuff. But then when I meet people, I come off very friendly, very extroverted, very chatty, communicative, which I am. However, I am also way more introverted in private than people would think based upon their first impression of me, because I come off very Gemini. At least based off my chart and what I've been told, that's how I would put my energy out there. Now, for example, if you're an Aries sun and let's say Scorpio rising, an Aries person, Aries sun is very forward. That's fire. So you're bold, you're forward, you're out there, you put your energy out there. But then that Scorpio rising would make you more quiet, intense, observant, like secretive even. So that's how people would perceive you, even though you may say, but I'm so Aries, I'm so out there, I'm so open. yes, you are, but when you upon first meeting you come off very Scorpio. That's the ascendant. That's like your mask. But it's not that it's fake. It's just that that's your outer layer, and that's what people see when they first meet you. That could be their first impression. It is also said that in the first half of your life, you tend to be more like your rising sign, more like your ascendant. And then once you get to 30 and above, you tend to flip over and become more of your sun sign. I can say from personal experience that I find that to be true. I feel like when I was younger, I was very much more Gemini. I was much more extroverted. I was a little bit of a partier. I loved to go out. I was in the know about everything. Really, really communicative. I just wanted to be everywhere. And now that I'm older, I'm obviously above 30, I definitely see how the Gemini side of me has been quelled. And yes, I am still very communicative and aware, and I love to read and write and learn and all those Gemini things, but yet I'm not as extroverted as I was when I was younger. Now I've definitely become much more Taurus, in the sense that I like to be inward a lot more, okay? I like my alone time. I like my quiet time. That's much more Taurus. That happened in my 30s. So yeah, that for me, that rings true. So you can kind of play around with that and check your chart out and see what your rising sign is, if you don't already know that, and your sun sign, and start to kind of make those parallels. Now here's the other part about that. Most of the time, many of us are not the same sign as like the sun sign and the ascendant are different. Now, for some of us, they're the same. So you could be a Taurus sun and a Taurus rising, okay? That would make you very Taurian, very double Taurus. As with whether it was Gemini sun, Gemini rising, Scorpio sun, Scorpio rising. But most people have different sun and rising signs. So, and a lot of times they're in different elements, and they're also different modalities. That makes it very hard to sometimes harmonize those energies. So that's why people are so contradictory at times. They can seem very aware and astute and into something, and then in the next moment it's like their attention's been brought somewhere else, because that's their signs working in tandem. That's what's supposed to happen. We are all very complex individuals, and the chart is a huge component as to how to explain that. And like I always say, astrology does not excuse behavior, but it does explain it, okay? Then you want to bring in the moon sign. I love the moon. I think it's amazing. I talk about it all the time, because if you really want to know a person's core, you want to look at the moon, because the moon is the soul. The moon is the soul of a person. It is the heart and the guts. It's who you truly are at the most instinctive gut soul level of being. It is how you intuit everything emotionally. It's how you react, whether it's outward or inward. It's who you truly are, and not everybody sees that side of you. Sometimes even we don't see it about ourselves, and so we're forced to kind of go deep into some kind of emotional water and figure it out, right? Then only do we know who we truly are on the soul level. So, the moon is water. So if you have a water moon, for example, which would be Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, you're going to be highly sensitive, highly intuitive, very tuned into what's going on, the undercurrent of life. It's not surface for you if you have a water moon. I'm a Pisces moon. I can tell you, this is what got me into astrology. From a very young age, I felt everything in my stomach. Emotions, other people's emotions, and it was distressing for me, especially as a child, because I had this high level of empathy that I couldn't quite understand. And that's what got me into astrology. And then I figured out at the age of 11 that I was a Pisces moon, and I was like, holy crap, this makes so much sense why I'm the way that I am emotionally, but learning your moon just helps you kind of work with it and deal with it on a different level. But if you don't know, you don't know, right? So for example, I just gave an example of if you're a water moon. Now, if you're an air moon, which would be a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius moon, it gets a little bit more complicated because you process your emotions intellectually. So it would be very difficult for you to go really deep unless you have other water placements in your chart or are a water sun sign. So you see how this gets? Okay, I hope this is making sense. So an air moon, it's different. You tend to intellectualize your emotions. They have to make sense. You don't go straight to the heart. You go to the brain first. You go to the logical side, which may or may not be good, and sometimes it vacillates. It's great to have. Sometimes I wish I had more air in my chart, or could be an air moon, so that I could do that instead of always going right to the heart and the gut. But everyone's different, right? So that's if you have an air moon. If you have an earth moon, which would be Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, depending on which sign those fall in. A Taurus moon is fantastic if you have a Taurus moon. That would make you typically a very grounded individual emotionally. Yes, you may be able to fly off the handle here and there, but you can usually pull yourself back down. A Virgo moon tends to be more critical and a little bit obsessive, whereas a Capricorn moon can be very rigid in their thinking, okay? So these are all different. This is emotionally, okay? So you could be, if you're a Cancer sun, let's just say, and you have a Capricorn moon, that could be a nice blend because the Cancer makes you very sensitive and impressionable, but then the Cap moon would make you downtoned a little bit, which could help out with the emotionality of the Cancer moon. So you see how these can work together, but they can also work against each other, okay? And we all have that both ways in our charts. Now, if you have a fire moon, which would be Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, these moons are fast. They're hot, they're fast, they're fire, so they could be furious even. So an Aries moon would be very impulsive to act. A Leo moon could be a little too proud and abrasive. A Sag moon, Sagittarius moon, could be very, very fickle and changeable in their emotions, and you wouldn't know where you stand with this person, and it's hard for them to commit to things. So you see how this works. Now, apply all of those into your relationships in your life. This is why I always talk about the moon especially, because if you have incompatible moons with somebody, whether it's business, relationship, personal, romantic, family, this is why you get along better emotionally with certain people than with others, because your moons probably gel. If you look further into the charts, I do charts for many couples. There's a lot of them that don't have compatible moons, but there's other things working really nicely in the chart, and they can overcome that, okay? There are people that have fabulous moon placements together, but then there's other things in their charts that are making it difficult. So you see, it's very, very interesting and intricate, and it's a complicated web, but it's so fascinating when you genuinely learn it, because it is our psychological makeup. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. Long story short, the big three in your chart, which are the sun, the moon, and the rising, truly shape who you are. You should definitely find out what sign all of those fall in. Obviously, you know your sun sign. So if you want to do that, you can go to a free site like astro.com, or I believe Cafe Astrology does this as well, and you can use their free birth calculator and put in your information, and it will tell you. And all you want to focus on is the moon and the rising sign, because you already know your sun sign. The moon and the rising sign, aka ascendant. The rising sign is called the ascendant, and it's shown in some of the glyphs as in some of the graphs as ASC, which stands for ascendant. The ascendant also is the first house in your chart, okay, which means, again, the outer layer, the body. So that sets the tone for your whole entire chart. So if that is off, if the time is off, you won't have accuracy in the houses in your chart, which is important, okay? I will get into that in another video about the houses in your chart and why they're significant. But meanwhile, this is just for the sun, moon, and ascendant. I hope that made sense, and if you have any questions, pop off below. I'm happy to come back and do a follow-up if anybody needs more clarity. I'm Lisa Salvatore of lisasalvatore.com. All of my links are below if you want to check me out further or get a private consultation. Take good care. I will be back with more of these videos, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.